What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Osoroshii Saturday. Just this past week was one of the most demon-based holidays here in Japan, Setsubun. If you don't know what Setsubun is, it's a holiday in which we have someone dress up as a demon, and that demon can be anything from just the normal red Oni mask demon that I'm sure you've seen many, many times, to a very specific one called Namahage, which I definitely suggest you take a look at online. It is a very horrifying costume that must scare kids pretty profusely. And those demon costumes are used to dress up in by Japanese folk and scare kids around town. It's really kind of a funny, sort of scary holiday for them. Usually a chosen sort of people for Matsuri, a staff for a Matsuri, will do it for a town or within schools, like one of the schools I work at. I actually dressed up as the demon. I can show you a picture of that. I'll post it right here as we're talking. I made this demon costume myself, just out of a bunch of construction paper and magic wipes, those things that you rub on the wall really fast that take anything off. And this is my demon costume. I hope you like it. I scared the crap out of a lot of little kids, and it's something that you do in order to scare away evil spirits where at one time were thought to cause illness in children. So you would go up to these kids and scare them, hoping that you're scaring out the demons that would infect them or give them viruses or make them sick or take them to an early grave. So it does have a good meaning behind it, even though you are somewhat traumatizing the kids, it seems like sometimes. And yes, the kids do cry their head off. We tend to make it pretty horrifying, and some people go to pretty great lengths to really scare the crap out of these kids. In turn, the kids are given beans. These are usually soybeans, and those beans are then thrown at the demon. They usually shout, "Oni ni asoto," and "Oni ni asoto," and that means, "Get out, demon, get out, demon." And they're driving the demon out of the house, or the school, or whatever area he's attacking, sometimes a temple if it's at a Matsuri, which is a festival. And the demon will usually retract himself, he'll act like he's being hurt and destroyed by these beings that are attacking him. The kids will get really happy and feel really brave that they're taking on this giant adult-sized demon who will then go ahead and escape, run out into the street or wherever the outside area is and take off, and apparently that's what purifies the kid then, and he won't get any viruses, diseases, or infections or evil spirits infecting him for the upcoming year. And that's why it's done each and every year. Setsubun! Check it out if you haven't already. Today, why I'm talking about Setsubun, why I'm talking about demons or yokai, is because today is going to be a little specific on a couple of demons I'm going to talk about, and I think it's something I'm going to try and start in each and every little episode of Osoroshii Saturday. I'm not going to try and take over the whole thing with demons, although one day I might do a special totally on demons. I'm going to throw a few demons in here and there. Now, I want you to understand, a couple words here. Kaibutsu means like monsters, like all monsters. It can be any kind of monster, from ghosts to goblins to kappa to tengu, anything you can imagine. It is a general word for monsters in Japan, kaibutsu. Now, two separations of these monsters would be yokai, which I'm sure you might know of from the anime Yokai Watch. Yokai is technically demons. They tend to only be demons. Sometimes you see some weird stuff thrown in there that you're like, is that a demon? Is that an urban legend? For example, there are the boat ghosts, which they're sometimes listed under yokai, even though they're called a yurei. And that's the other specific type of kaibutsu that I'm talking about. Not today, but maybe in a later video. Yurei are ghosts in Japan. So if you ever see blah blah yurei, it's most likely a ghost. And then you have your urban legend type ghosts, which tend to be called kaidan sometimes. There's even a movie called Kaidan that's about some of these urban legend type ghosts slash demons slash monsters. And that's when you get into things like the Bear Woman, Kuma Onna, or Kuchisake Onna, probably one of the most famous urban legends, or also known as a Toshi Densetsu urban legend. And then there's even things farther on, like you would say a Gaidan Toshi Densetsu, a modern day urban legend, or in English we'd just say probably creepypasta. There's different monsters for those even sometimes too that tend to have technology involved. For example, yurei that are involved in keitai denwa, cell phone ghosts that travel through cell phones and stuff like that. You might have seen like in One Missed Call or something like that. So there's all these different technical types. I don't want people shouting at me like, no wait, that's this and this is this. I may mix it up at some points because some of these tend to find themselves in other categories. The point is I'm trying to focus on yokai. First, we're going to go through yokai. I'm going to give you a couple today, maybe a couple in the next episode, and maybe, like I said, at one point I'll do maybe a top 10 or top 15 yokai. I'm working with another channel right now to do a top 30 yokai in Japan, the top 30 scariest yokai. So that's not necessarily going to be the same yokai you're going to see here. I'm generally going to keep it to be any and every type of yokai. Some are very goofy and funny. Like one is called like Shadow Wall, which is just like a giant wall of shadows. And another one is kind of a creepy one called Akaname that eats the dead skin in your bathtub. Very creepy little demon. So that's what we're going to get into today. If you enjoy that kind of stuff, you're still going to have that, and you're going to have your other stuff like Ghosts on Film. Don't worry, that's not going anywhere. You're going to have your creepypasta, your J-pasta, your horror in the news. I'm just going to mix it up a little bit more with that, and of course, as always, Bukimi bites at the end. Guys, sit back, relax, and get ready for some Osoroshii Saturday. Okay, so one of the first demons I'm going to start with tonight, with some pictures that you're going to see here. All these pictures with these demons that I'm showing you are hand-drawn by yours truly. I've done on my own original artwork because I felt it wasn't fair to just borrow it from books or from online or on the internet, just grab some photos here and there. Now, I am going to mix some of those photos in with these, but I feel it's important that I show my own original first to kind of give you my concept of, from everything I've read, what I've made up in my mind of what this creature looks like. Our first one tonight is my favorite all-time, Akaname, the eater of dead skin. And he is a very strange little demon who lurks around your bathroom. When you go to take a bath, you of course lose dead skin cells. Your dead skin falls off, your hair falls out, you know, anything that's just kind of loose on your body, sometimes even fingernails and stuff like that, scabs, gross, right? Well, this little guy sticks around, hiding in your bath, not necessarily in the bath itself, but in the bathroom. He might just be invisible at the time. He can turn invisible, he can just disappear, he can just vape out, and after you leave, if you have not cleaned that bathtub after you've finished, he's gonna come back. And he's gonna look around that bathtub, and his favorite thing to munch on is all your dead skin and hair. Anything you left over from a byproduct of your body. He's gonna sit there, he's gonna lick it out. He's got a giant tongue. This tongue just comes out and wipes the tub clean so that he can lick up all that wonderful dead skin, scabs, and hair. He munches it up, and afterwards, because he's licked it with his big old Akaname tongue, he's left his saliva behind. His saliva dries around the tub. You can't see it because saliva tends to be clear. It is the same with this yokai as well. And it'll dry around the tub. It's like a layer on the tub. Imagine if I just put Vaseline all around your tub. You wouldn't notice until you got really close. You'd see all this Vaseline. Gross. So imagine it's like that, except it gets dry and hard. When you go into the tub after that, the water is going to dissolve that saliva around the edges. That saliva is poison to humans, and you will soon die after taking a bath licked by Akaname. Well, it started to snow as I filmed this next part about a demon called Futa Kuchi Ona. Now, for a translation on that one, it's a little bit strange sounding. It is woman with mouth in the back of her head. So you may be thinking, well, what's going on there? And it's actually a mouth and a set of eyes. It can be a various amount of eyes and a various amount of mouth, sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes 3 or 4 eyes. They're held by strands of hair that are tentacle-like. But the whole time that they're not shown to people, they're hidden. They're pushed away inside of usually like a geisha-like bun on the back of her head. And she walks around pretending to be nothing more than just a normal woman, but then uses that mouth to, number one, for the most non-malicious stuff, would be stealing some food from somebody. So she may just run in, grab some food with the back of her head, and run out. That's kind of the more childlike story of her, but darker stories of her, and the more adult version of it, is her eating the souls of men. It always tends to be these demon women eating the souls of men in these old Edo era Japanese yokai. And that's what she does. One thing you guys may not even know is oftentimes you see that giant helmet-like hat when women get married here in Japan. It's like a giant white egg. Look up some wedding photos of classical or traditional style Japanese weddings, and you always see the woman wearing a white kimono and this gigantic white egg-shaped hat. And that is to hide her demon side. That is either to hide horns, or to hide that she is futakuchi, or to hide some demonic presence from the husband. I'm not joking when I say that. It sounds incredibly sexist, I know, I realize that now, and do realize it's based in a very archaic art. The tradition now is just because it looks beautiful. They don't actually think anyone is a demon, but that's where the tradition comes from. And that also kind of ties into Futakuchi Onna.
I haven't visited this mall since I was a kid. Usually I just pass it up on my way home. But today, I was feeling a bit nostalgic. The child in me must have been yearning to see it again. Weird, dreamlike atmosphere filled the air. The memories were far too old to be clear. But I do know that the empty shop in front of me used to be a Funkoland. That's who used to sell games before GameStop came around. It's also where I bought the Dreamcast that I own to this day, and the NES that my sister took to her house. The sign for the store was still up. Weirdly enough, part of it was hanging down, with caution tape surrounding it. And I didn't understand why there were still games inside of a company store that must have been abandoned for years now. I wanted to explore inside, but as I neared the entrance, a nearby employee motioned me away from the store. And since I didn't want to ruin a good time by being thrown out, I just went on my way. After a bit of walking, I noticed that most of the mall had very few customers. There were a couple of stores that were still open, but all of them seemed like they hadn't been renovated in years. I may just be making assumptions, but I don't think this mall has done well in finances over the years. This was more evident to me in my next discovery. As I walked to another portion of the mall, I noticed that many of the stores were just closed outright, but that's wide open. Usually you see a large steel curtain covering these empty spaces, but instead, businesses were just abandoned and left to decay. This part of the mall was not as staffed as the rest, so I took it upon myself to explore the broken down retail shops that were there. Continuing on to the second floor, I began to see a drastic change. From what I could see, this entire floor was completely empty. No one staffing the area, no struggling business, no customers. I was shocked that the stairs to this floor hadn't been closed off. I walked to the back left corner of the main area, and I was greeted by a long, dark hallway. Until now, I had never thought about how odd it would be to see an area of a running business without proper lighting. This just seemed too sketchy. Too out of place. What am I saying? This whole mall has been out of place. I questioned myself a few times. I went back and forth. Each time walking about 5 steps to the staircase before I tapped the flashlight icon on my phone and decided that I'd come too far to go back now. I wish I hadn't. The newly lit hallway was dingy, disgusting. There were dilapidated posters on the wall of restaurant chains that had been run out of business, old movies, and current events that weren't so current anymore. The walls then turned to a brick surface on one side, and closed shops on the other. At this point, I could see an employees-only door at the end of the hallway. When I neared closer, I realized that the door was left wide open, and it led to a lit staircase. Since there was no staff in this area, I figured that the stairwell was also abandoned, and most likely, I wouldn't be caught exploring this area. Going downstairs would be pointless, and could have got me in big trouble. So I decided to take the stairs around the bend to the roof. But there was no roof. Just a door that was either locked or warped to the point that it couldn't be opened. And there were more stairs. I remember thinking how impossible that was. I know that I saw a skylight when I was down on the 2nd floor. And the whole mall was just a flat box on the outside. Disregarding my thoughts, I found myself being drawn to the next floor. Maybe it was curiosity or just stupidity. Either way, what I found on the 4th floor was not what I expected. Step by step, my anticipation doubled. It was coupled with the feeling of intense anxiety. Time had slowed, and each step was accompanied by a sharp, clenching pain in my stomach. The lights grew dimmer as I neared the turning point. Once again, there was no roof on this floor. Only a set of stairs leading higher, and another set that led to an open door. Suddenly, the lights behind the door flashed on, and I could see a man standing just beyond it. I tried to explain it myself, but no words would leave my mouth. I then realized that there were even more people behind the man in front. That's when they spoke to me. Collectively. They said, "Don't go to the 5th floor." I stared for a moment and shrugged it off. I thought my mind must have been playing tricks on me. There couldn't have been anyone in this part of the building, and if they were, they would be escorting me out. I figured that it must have been my own fear telling me not to go further. But I was too strong for that. Or so I thought. The lights in the room went off again, and I made my way up the other stairs. The 5th floor. Don't go to the 5th floor. while I was ripe with courage for a short moment, this phrase began to replace that courage with something else. I'm not too sure what I felt at the time, but it was something stronger than fear, and much stronger than myself. The door to the 5th floor was just barely cocked open. Cold wind escaped the crack in which a dim light pervaded. As I neared the door, I blacked out. I'm not sure how I got to the hospital. I've asked nurses and doctors. I've even called family members and asked them what could have happened. They either didn't know or they didn't respond. No one will give me any answers as to what happened. And apparently, the mall had been closed for 12 years now. Even stranger, there was no 5th floor. Nor was there a 4th. Or a 3rd. But I still have the photographs. I know I was there. Inside a boarded up mall. In a place that doesn't exist.
What's up guys, taking a step back inside so I can tell you a little bit about the Bukimi Bites today, starting off first with Zero Nure Garasu no Miko, also known as Fatal Frame 5. And the reason I want to talk about this game today is because it is the 5th in the Fatal Frame series. If you've heard me talk about games in the past, one of my all-time favorites is Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. And this one is number 5, and it does not have English localization yet. And as of right now, as far as I know, there is nothing out there getting ready to localize it. There's no company, no corporation looking to bring this to America. And that's why I want to talk to you a little bit about this game today. I've gotten to play the Japanese version here in Japan on the Wii U, and it is a creepy game. You are pretty much out in the mountains looking for an exploration team that went lost while researching spirit-type activity in the mountains. But even I myself, after 9 years in Japan, have trouble understanding some of the very esoteric language because it's not commonly stuff that I talk about in Japanese. Although I do research quite a bit of ghost stuff, I gave you a little bit of vocabulary even in this show. The stuff that they talk about is very transcendental, very spirit world-esque, a lot of words that even I don't know. So I would like to play it in English as well, but that can't happen until a petition is started, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Starting a petition to try and get this game turned to English. If you already know about one out there, please let me know and I will advertise it here on Osoroshii Saturday. If not, let's get one started. Let's get this game out and about in America so that everyone can know how wonderfully spooky Fatal Frame 5 is. That being said, let's move right on to our movie. It is another splatter film once again, Meatball Machine. Whoa, what a crazy film this one is. Very low budget, but very gory nonetheless. Quick little look at an about 80 minute, 83 minute movie. It's not very long at all. It'll take you through a blazingly fast trip of kind of two lovers separated by social class but brought together after they are both possessed by some sort of alien presence that turns them into warring monstrosities that have been mutated beyond horrific belief. If you want to follow one of the most twisted love and horror stories mixed together in a very splatterpunk atmosphere, check out Meatball Machine. Also, I'd just like to give a shout out today, guys. The pasta featured today was a pasta by Nice Pasta. That is his YouTube name. I want you to go check out that channel. It is great. He has all his own unique original pastas that have come from everything from his own spooky nightmares and dreams to just little things that he's written up himself. He also has a couple of movies on there. One that I really like, Anonymous Dreams. If you liked any of my own movies like Cursed Urban or Smudge Mouth, you will love his movies. He has a lot of the same influences. Movies such as Occulto, Cult, and all the different movies done by that director. Incredibly spooky, eerie, atmospheric, creepypastas and movies. Go check it out, Nice Pasta. Alright guys, let's call it an end to the show.
Well guys, that's it for this episode of Osoroshii Saturday. I hope you enjoyed everything you saw here on this very cold day in Kobe. Until next time, I am Unrested, and this is Osoroshii Saturday.